Welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for staying with Morning Live. We've really had a very busy show and it's really been made up of quite a bit, and it's time now to shift focus onto this. Next to rent, electricity is one of the largest expenses for low-income households. This plus inflation tariff hikes expected to continue into the foreseeable future. Using an economic cost recovery model with affordability as the starting point, a pioneering model for low-cost housing has been developed, and joining us now to discuss this is the head of affordable housing development at Nedbank, Mani Annandale. He joins us to tell us a little bit more about the Modula Moho in partnership with Nedbank has pioneered a model for housing the needs of the very poor. A very good morning to you and welcome to the show, Mani.
Valen, thank you very much. It's proud for us to be here as Nedbank and obviously, as you say, a pioneering project. So really looking forward to talking to you a bit about that.
Okay, so just explain to us what Modula Moho actually is.
Okay, Modula Moho is the social housing institution that in South Africa, there's various social housing institutions that develop these projects on behalf of the Social Housing Regulatory Authority in South Africa. And there's only a few of them. And it's very important for us in the affordable housing industry to understand that social housing specifically reaches so much more deeper into the income levels, or lower, so we call it. And for us, we fund these social housing institutions for key projects like Belhar, which is where the project is in Cape Town.
What's the role of Nedbank in this affordable housing project?
Yes, Nedbank, as one of the big four banks, obviously has a socially, economical and sustainability responsible to the environment that we operate in. And I think as a truly South African bank, it's very important for us to fund housing, and especially this specific sustainable housing, to show our commitment to sustainability. And it's quite difficult with the cost attached to it to make sure that the product still rolls out in the affordable sector. And I think in social housing specifically, where the government grants are only limited to what applies to a specific unit.
And I believe you guys have put 120 million rand behind this.
Yes, we've actually done it together with the Development Bank of South Africa, in partnership with them. And it's been a long time coming that we try and harness the DFIs, or the development funding institutions in South Africa, to try and make funding available on a more innovative scale to do this type of sustainable element to a development. Because let's face it, all of these developments, and when you add a greening to it, it costs money. And for the lower income sector to actually afford that specific dwelling, either by rent or sale, they need to have it at the lowest possible price and not to have the price scaled up because you've now added a greening element. So I think what we've done with the DBSA for this 120 million fund that you spoke about, we've partnered with them to try and incentivize a lower interest rate to the developer, because obviously as the tenants move into a new development for a social housing project, the operational expenses is a huge part of that for the developer to be able to support the funding that it gets from a bank like ours.
What is the greening element specifically of this project?
In this specific project we've got, and I think quite innovatively as well for social housing, we got heat pumps that on a centralized basis provide heating to the full development. And also obviously there's inherent building materials like specific window frames that's been used, that's either recycled or made from composite material that makes the interior of the house warmer during winter and more insulated during summer for the heating. Of course, the lighting always plays a part in a relatively smaller way, but the electricity that is being used for heating is normally the key element, and that's the element that we focused on together with Modula Moho, who is the actual management agent for this development.
I suppose it's just building cleverer.
Absolutely. I think you used the right word. I think sustainability should actually be linked to that word, to actually do things smarter in our environment, because it's so easy to revert to traditional methods of building. And I'm not saying we should do alternative building for the poor, but we can add elements to it that makes their lives easier, especially in terms of paying these huge electricity costs on a monthly basis.
Sure, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. So it's a big
such a
project,
pleasure.
lots more to speak about. But thank you so much for coming in to actually chat to us. That's Mani Annandale from Nedbank. He's the head of affordable housing development and finance, chatting to us about Madula Moho in partnership with Nedbank and the model that they've actually pioneered to meet the housing needs of the very poor. All right, stay with Morning Live. We've got sport coming up after the break.